Sorry, pardon me. Pardon me. Pardon me. I won't kid anyone. I am in a bad way. And I will be talking about that in the video. But I am trying to keep everything as upbeat as, so it might be slightly easier listening than other attempts. It's really difficult to post at present, due to things being so bad, and I wanted to really just keep it positive and upbeat all the time, the videos, but it's the exact same thing. I found myself in a place where I shouldn't be allowed to be as a human being. Quite unreal in terms of experience, and just a moment of reflection after what seems like a very long time of being left in that place. I managed to have a moment of reflection, and I realised how bad things are for me, just in the present moment, and however hard it would be, as you can tell, if you are watching, how hard it is to hear me speak. But I realised in the past, where I've been in similar, very pressured situations and circumstances, and it feels like I can't breathe. The best thing is to do something where I feel like I can breathe, and that is the last most positive thing that took that form was these videos. So I didn't hesitate. I picked up my phone and talking about my circumstance, and I'll continue talking until I'm able to I'll continue until hopefully I'm in a bit better place. I don't pardon me. The only thing that really popped into mind to talk about just before, sorry, it feels like I've got a massive boombox on my back that's interfering with my weak nervous system and disconnection from my body at present, and somehow jumping onto my vocal cords at the same time. I'm sorry that I sounded so in such a way. Sorry, as you can tell, I am going through a really tough patch, and I am just taking a minute on camera to to find out where to begin and express to you about what came to mind. It's just random stuff, but it might be of interest to some people. And we start the story with Wilhelm Reich. I think that was his name. Wilhelm Reich. William Reich. Something very similar to that. And essentially, if anyone doesn't know, I know him as Rife. I'll touch on it very quickly now. He later developed technology, and they were labelled Rife machines. So I simply know him as Rife, Dr. Rife. I believe his first name is William, but he has a second name that he also goes by, and he did use. So I believe it's Wilhelm Reich, but I could be mistaken there. Don't hold me to that, please. Yes, I've mentioned before, I'm a prior alternative therapist, complementary therapist. I'm also very much into technology. I'm also and when I came across his technology, it resonated with all three for me. The reason being is it's an alternative technology, so that's two already. And this is back in the 1940s, I think. He developed a course of procedures to cure disease, heal, and I think it worked as effectively as curing cancer. I mean, I'm really wanting to slow the video down as much as possible because that would help me. So I'm gonna try to slow things down, and the more I interject and go off on slight tangents, and the more I can bring other elements in, I think the better it will help me at the present. So that's what I'm gonna do. I will complete this story, and I will put the basis around the story, and I'll keep you in mind if you are watching, so you can have something of interest to follow. So anyway, I was talking about Wilhelm Reich. Before I go on with the story, that's my own personal Reich machine. I've recently purchased it for my health. I've not been using it as I would otherwise have liked due to my health, but it's there and waiting for me to use, and that's the Rife machine. The pads at the front were frequency generators, and you punch in your frequency. I'll get onto why frequencies later, and the tube, the colour neon tube at the back was a plasma tube. That's how the frequency is transmitted. Essentially, my understanding is that he developed a microscope, the most powerful microscope ever developed, to be able to see living cells, living organisms on a different level. And he managed to create a frequency generator, which is something similar to what you saw. This is like a modern version. And he went about cutting. I'm sure he infected the mice with diseases, or the scientific route. He was a scientist, but he essentially got the disease cells, the cancerous cells, put them under the microscope, and because he was able to see them on a different level than had ever been seen before, he was then able to just watch them whilst he applied frequencies. And he monitored it and realised that sound frequency, to be honest, I don't know what other special mechanics are used within the technology, whether it is just more than a frequency generator or what exactly, but he essentially developed a technology. This is the modern version, and as the frequencies resonated with the specific disease, it would kill it. And I at least with my machine, the opposite's also they can provide healing frequencies for the body as well, so it has the opposite effect. But essentially he developed the cure to cancer in the 1940s. I'm in a lot of pain, so pardon my expression, so I'm sorry. I don't know why, but the machine focuses a lot on Lyme disease. I don't know if that's quite an incurable disease, but it does focus a lot on Lyme disease as its cure. Yeah, I mean he developed the technology, but I don't know why. I mean, my suspicion, you got the pharmaceutical companies, but I really don't want to touch on anything conspiracy theory based. I want to steer straight away from that. So he was shut down by the forces at B, and the technology never went anywhere. The thing I really wanted to talk about with his technology, though, and I'll guide it back to spirituality for us all, and that is his microscope. Because his microscope was the real center showpiece, not the frequency generator and emitter as I understand it. Because, and get this, when does this ever happen? So he developed this technology back in the 1940s. He called it the universal microscope. And it was the most powerful microscope ever made. And I'll give you my understanding of how it works. It's very quick, very brief, and I could be mistaken, but essentially my understanding is he takes a prism and divides the input into 7 different light frequencies. Divides the light into 7. He then, because that's how light divides into colours. I'm just trying to manage the pain again. Because it divides the light into colours. Because it divides the light into colours. So he takes a prism input and divides it into the 7 different colours. Then each different colour gets a full spectrum. I don't know what it was. It must have been tube. I just imagine in my mind a tube, because it's like as it comes in, the light, there's a tube at the back of the microscope and it goes down, sort of thing. So whatever path the light would have to take, that's what I'm trying to establish, and that's why I say tube. But what he did, he divided it into 7, and each spectrum of colour got its own full bandwidth of the technology that held that light frequency. So whatever it was that transmitted that light beam, he was able to make it full spectrum. So it wasn't just like a seventh of the whole thing. A seventh became its own whole thing, and then each seventh became its own whole thing. And when he recombined it, the image became even clearer. I don't know if that made sense. I know it must have been a bit confusing, but I think you get the gist. He got the input light, divided it into 7. Each seventh was as powerful as the whole. He then recombined it, and I don't know if it was 7 times 7 times 7 blah blah blah, or just 7 sevens, who knows, but it created a very powerful microscope nonetheless. And this microscope to this day is the most powerful microscope ever made. No microscope with all the technology since has been able to beat not only the simplicity but the size of the universal microscope. I don't think it was all that big. And if you look at the microscopes they're having to develop nowadays, they're quite huge, some of them, but all right, they might be trying to see different things than what Mr. Rife, I'm going to call him Wilhelm Reich, because it's causing me discomfort trying to figure out what I'm going to call him. So either way, it wasn't as powerful as Wilhelm Reich's, but of reality than the universal mic. But the size wasn't that big in comparison to modern day microscopes. That's all I was trying to make. But I think that's possibly where consciousness got to, in terms of reflecting upon itself in a metaphorical sense. It could see itself more powerful back in the 40s than it has ever been able to since. It's just my psychosis. I want to call it psychosis at present rather than spirituality, because it's like full-blown bombardment of psychosis through my spiritual filter. That's the only way I can describe it. Nonetheless, it's spiritual, and nonetheless, to hear it, I'm sure could have some beauty to hear. But no, I've just reminded myself of what I wanted to share, and I'll be surprised if anything but arrogance comes across, because it's quite egotistical. So anyway, the roundabout theory is that my uncle Vladimir in Cyprus, one of his pursuits, Qigong, which is what he was teaching me, a very mental based aspect of Qigong, but it does have a very so that's I don't know if how many students he taught that specific type of Qigong to, but I know he had close students, and he would have taught them elements at least of it. I'm getting somewhere with this. So not only did my uncle develop 5-body Qigong, but he also developed or had a more philosophical system or philosophy called the Tao of Infinity. So you've got the Tao, which is from Taoism, and my understanding and the most simplest, easiest way to describe it so you have a comprehension if you don't know already, is the way. So Tao simply means the way. Apparently it's more complex than that, but I can't even think for myself to really to comprehend it at this moment anyway. Pardon me. So my uncle's system essentially was the way of infinity. And within that it incorporated time, obviously, with infinity. And infinity is a number 8 on its side, isn't it? So if you associate a number with infinity, you're going to associate a number 8. And what my psychosis coming through the filter of my spirituality has been creating the story for me is I mean, one of the first experiences I remember of my uncle on a spiritual level is when I went to Cyprus. I must have been about 16. At the time, he had his studio there, and I'm sorry, the pain is just too much. I feel very violated by my mental health at present, and I'm just taking a moment to I don't know, just let the energy pass, because it's not pleasant at all. And I'll continue with the story. Must have been about 16. I was in Cyprus. First time I remember him on a spiritual perspective. He took different forms, my uncle. I'll explain that another time. But one of the ways I remember him on this occasion was a spiritual setting, spiritual studio. He'd done his training where he might possibly not have done before on other visits from myself to Cyprus. And when I say training, spiritual training, is Qigong training, and it was a different person, it was a different energy, so to speak. And on this occasion he'd brought some Mexicans, spiritual Mexicans, over from Mexico and hosted them at I don't know if he must have had workshops and stuff, but I don't remember that side of it. All I remember is that being Mexican shamanic dancers, he'd arranged for them to perform at a restaurant, and he took me along with him. And I think he made it clear to me, you know, he was working, he was the host, and I was young and I'm autistic anyway, so I went to the restaurant, and he gave me the job of recording on the camera. I can't remember. I don't think I did much. I think I just pressed record like once, and that might have been it. I don't know, something ridiculous. But he gave to use the camera. Maybe he couldn't look after me because he was working. I don't know. What am I trying to get at? So yes, the way that message was given to me, "Here, Andreas, you hold the camera." Those are the words that resonate and stick in my mind. as my uncle given me a spiritual job of holding some sort of spiritual camera and light for the world. And in that, and in his Tao of Infinity, the number 8, and in my fondness of Wilhelm Reich's work and owning a Rife machine that aren't cheap, and my recent thinking about how Wilhelm Reich got reality to 7, and I think on a spiritual has created the if Wilhelm Reich created the universal microscope, my uncle has either created the universal telescope, or my suspicion, the multiversal microscope in myself. I am the product of my uncle's work, and I think my uncle's work was manifold. He had a world vision, and through the application of consciousness and energy and his teachings to myself, somehow my life and all of this suffering is justified by me being essentially a universal telescope or a multiversal microscope, because I believe my uncle has devised a way to get reality to at least 8. Because 9 is stopping in numerology. 9, you stop at 9. So I think if he could get it to 8, it's infinite. That's my thinking. How that takes place in me, I suspect time. That was the suspicion that came to me through this psychosis and spiritual downloads, so to speak, I've had. That's been excruciating, and I pray I never experience again. But here I am expressing something that sounds so egotistical and so misplaced to my current life circumstance, and possibly for the first time I'm saying something along those lines, and I really don't care, in the sense that in terms of ego, because I care extremely that I'm having to pick up the phone and express this at all. So my uncle got it to 8. Somehow I am the microscope, macroscope, blah blah blah. And I think he's done that by adding the dimensions. So you've got light, and I believe my uncle just added time alongside that. So I think where Wilhelm Reich, there's another Reich, so I might be mixing the two up, but where Rife got it to 7, my uncle added the element of time, because if you take those cells, my belief is that with time some heal, and with time others might die from the frequencies they're fed for different reasons, and I can't bother to go into it now. I do have some supporting bollocks to add to this bollocks, but my theory is that with the element of time, his healing system might not have stood up, and he needed to be more thorough. So the big failing factor that was obvious to me was that back in the 40s they didn't really have video cameras, not to be able to connect to a microscope and really see in clarity what would be needed, and that would have made the difference. If they'd have had DSLRs back in the 40s, obviously it's an impossibility. They would have been able to connect it to the microscope and record the same occurrence over a period of weeks, months, or ideally a year, because we have seasons, and this is a planet. It goes around the sun, and we're talking about energy, and we're talking about the universe. So surely you've got to be like on a yearly cycle, and if we do leap years, it's got to be 4 or 5 yearly cycle to really get an accurate picture of frequencies upon cell effect, basically the long-term effect. What really ties in with this is that I remember a few years back, I think it was through another spiritual source, I heard it, whereby some team thought they'd discovered free energy. I think that's what it was. They thought they'd discovered free energy, and they took it to the world, and it turns out no, it hadn't occurred, because I think it was like a research team. So they found it one day and they're like, oh, we've hit the jackpot. And they called a press conference, and by the next day at the press conference it didn't work. Now the spiritual channel, I think it was from, said the reason was because of a frequency within the room. So a frequency within the room was responsible for the creation of the free energy, and that in the new setting of the press conference, that frequency was absent. So when they presented it to the world, it was no longer working. So it just stuck with me, that bit of information on a spiritual level, and it just got me thinking about time. And if we took William Rife's microscope again and added a camera to it and monitored absolutely everything that occurred within the room. So in a sense, we add a CCTV camera to go alongside the video footage of the cell over a 5-year period, and possibly, so we're scientific about it, over a 15 year period, so that we at least have 3 repetitions to create some sort of, definite base. So in 15 years, if we use his microscope, we should, with the addition of a camera, DSLR, be able to correlate enough information against cell growth and occurrence against frequency input to really create an in-depth picture of life at that level. I don't know how that happens through myself. I think I think it's obvious. I have paranoid schizophrenia. If I look at what the way and what my uncle taught me, it was to be fluid with life, flexible, adaptable. Try and essentially do as Bruce Lee, be like water. And whatever I'm experiencing on a spiritual, emotional, psychotic, mental health level, to live it. Quite simply, taking my uncle being a Taoist, to take it and make it simple. Live everything. And that's been my challenge. And with the Tourette's, with walking down the street, you saw. Well, you may have seen the video of me walking down the street being myself, being mad. But the pressures I have, the different energies and inputs I have are quite unbelievable. And I can hear my voice, for instance, changing, and I'm just very natural with it. I'm not trying to make my voice change. I'm just me within all the changes in my voice. And I think that's another element. Don't be attached. So all of these different things, if I look at what my uncle has taught, that's what they really come down to. How to live paranoid schizophrenia. And to see where that really looks like as life. So in that terms, I believe I'm a multiversal microscope, because in me is the multiverse. I think others have done the universe on a spiritual level. And there's people on earth that are walking embodiments of the universe. And somehow, through my uncle's uncle, he's created a way to see the multiverse. But obviously, what I'm experiencing is unbelievable and agony on a physical level, both to my internal and external realities, must be the effects and distance of the multiverse at present. I expressed in an earlier video how, and I'm just keeping on talking, there's nothing, and I'm just trying to link in as much bollocks to this as possible, because I've got lost in the video again, and I can't keep living like this, where I'm having to look at my life from a distance, and my life is so painful, and I have to keep distracting myself, because I can't live this way. I don't know how. Not when it's not working for me, I don't mind if it works, but it's not working at present. Distraction, and it's really painful, because I don't know how to get back. That's the thing. It's like, okay, I've tried distracting myself, and I've tried distracting myself, and it's not working with my life. But because my life is quite painful, I don't know how to get back to it. My body has rested just that little bit in the distraction, and my life demanded absoluteness, and I don't know how to get back up. And the only thing that comes to mind is more pain, really, as a result of life, not myself. It's going to give me a little nudge back up, but I can't imagine it getting any. It can get more painful, of course it can. So yeah, pain is the whole universe is, well, I don't know what you call it. Are we polarized with other universes, or are we whatever that energetic relationship is? That's what I'm experiencing on a physical level as a result of the whole universe. That's what my spirituality is telling me and creating as a story for me at present, so I can manage the pain. I think I've got close enough right at this moment to be able to let go of the video at least, and who knows where I go with my day, but hopefully the story might have cheered you up a little bit, and I've just shared a little bit more of my spiritual self.